welcome back to another episode of Prep Radio. And it's been so long that you probably thought that one of us had died or something else had happened. But no, we're still here, just very, very busy and not able to get together. This is our, fifth attempt, Paul, to get together for a podcast, which has taken us about 2 months to do.
Yeah, either you've been tired, I've been tired, you've suddenly been busy, or I've been busy, or we just didn't want to speak to each other.
Which is normally the case, to be fair.
Yeah.
So so we have got, I think the last podcast we released was November 2022.
Yeah.
So
November
yes. Sorry?
It was November, and the reason I know that is if you go to my website, teampscarb.co.uk, all the Prep Radio podcasts are listed there. Chewbacca.
Yeah. I've got an interesting story about that. I'll tell you in a second.
Right, okay.
So yeah, the podcast was November 2022. So we might have actually even been delisted off the podcasting rankings, but not that we were anywhere near the top anyway. But oh, my cat's just decided to turn up behind me. So I'll tell you the Chewbacca story at the end if we get the time, because it's cool. Not bodybuilding related at all, but it is quite funny. Good. So what we're going to talk about today is we've got a few listener questions which we didn't do because we didn't get around to doing the podcast, and also we are going to talk. The main topic today is about training specificity, if I said that right. Training with a purpose, which is something I promote, and as well. It's basically getting your mind into what you're doing so that you get the best results. Oh, my cat's decided to have a frenzy.
It needs to be said, we're not going to talk about like mind-muscle connection or anything like that. I think that's been taught to death. But it like Tom says, it's more about not do you go into the gym with a plan, but you actually embark on a training sort of phase with changing your approach to the gym and your plan to match your end goal, not because everybody on Instagram is suddenly using push-pull legs or whatever, but do you go it before you embark on like let's say an off season or a pre-prep sort of period, so between 4 and 6 months before you start prep, do you think about what your goals are that you need to achieve to get to the beginning of prep? And then obviously when you're at the beginning of prep, obviously your goal is to be shredded and as much muscle as possible on stage. But do you change your training, or do you need to change your training for that? So that's what we're going to sort of cover today.
Yeah, and I thought then you were going to go right into the topic then, and because we've got other stuff to talk about before that.
Yes,
because we did listener questions. Well, we didn't do listener questions, so we have a few listener questions. I've got one which is still outstanding. Have you got any, Paul?
I have. I'll dig them out as we're going along.
This is where Paul gets his made-up listener questions out, and it's like, how come, Paul, you're so good at what you do, and I don't know about that. You send yourself a WhatsApp so that you can show it.
I've always found that Paul's more of an inspiration than Tom.
No one sent that question in.
Papa Smurf. Oh, you have. Mainly your missus.
She likes muscly guys, mate. She ain't going to go for you.
Fair one. Was she staying around for you for the house money?
Yeah, the money, which isn't there. So listener questions. The one I've got was from Kevin Rawson, who said, does Tom regret opening a gym, and would he do things different now? If he could run it again? And the answer to that is, I suppose, with the benefit of hindsight. I'm not going. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, isn't it? And when I opened the gym, I had a solid business plan. I presented it to the bank. It got funding. We had to present it 3 times to the bank, because every time we got funding, we went back to the planning and they kicked us off. So it took us 9 months to get the planning.
It was an epic journey, wasn't it?
Massive, yeah. So we had to go back and get the funding approved 3 times. by the bank, so that we could actually like start the business. So it was a solid business plan, everything else, but you can't predict stuff that happens. And I would say to anybody who's looking to open their own gym, you need to have a contingency budget, which is probably about 30% over what you've actually budgeted for. There's so many minefields and loopholes and stuff that's going to come up, which you won't be able to plan for unless obviously you talk to another gym owner. So that's, I would advise people doing that. Personally, for a lot of the time with the gym, it was very touch and go, because we took on a massive project, like 9,000 square foot venue with, not much. I think we got a loan for about 25 grand. Me and my partner Kurt put in 25 grand. And then we basically bought all the kit on lease purchase and credit cards, which put us in a massive risk position. But it was something we wanted to do. We felt strongly about, and yeah, it was touch and go there. And we put, obviously financially it was a massive risk. So yeah, it did pay off, but I would say that that was a risk that going back again, because I knew if I had the benefit of hindsight, I knew it would turn out all right in the end. But it could have very easily, I could have looked at that decision and gone, no, that's a risk. That's too much of a risk, and just not done it. So I'm glad I did do it, and I'm glad I've still got the gym. It's going really well. We lockdown allowed us to do a massive renovation, which we were going to do anyway, just cheaper. So that was good. And the gym is in a position now where I'm really happy. It's pretty much nearly where I want it to be. We have got more expansion plans of putting a new mezzi up and all these other things that we want to do there. But yeah, it's to answer the question, yeah, I would do it again. But I think if I was going to do it again, I would be more mindful of the costs that came up, which are massive.
Yeah, I must admit, people still even now say to me, "Oh, why don't you open a gym?" And I'm like, because I know gym owners. My best mate's a gym owner, and I wouldn't want to throw myself into that pit. But also that's not my idea of, a good life. You've to own a gym, and we've talked about this before. Everybody seems to think you're wedged when you open a gym.
Yeah.
And I know several gym owners, and they'd say everybody thinks you're wedged, so they don't think nothing of not paying you monthly if you do it like that, rather than take it like by direct debit or something like that, because they think, you're wedged, so a week won't matter and whatever. What they don't realize is half the kit's rented. You got to pay rent on the building, you got to pay your staff, and everything like that. So I genuinely wouldn't want to own a gym. I think it's far too much of a headache than
But the other thing is that when we opened ministry, because we had no history in terms of a business or anything like that, the only finance loans we could get were worse interest rates than a credit card, which is why we bought a lot of the kits on credit card, because it was cheaper to buy 30 grand's worth of kit on a credit card than it was to buy 30 grand's kit through lease purchase.
Wow.
That's the reality of it. People, they just got you over a barrel, and gym kit is expensive. And it's funny whenever people say, "Oh, Tom, why don't you just buy this machine or buy that machine?" I said, "How much do you think that costs?" "Oh, like £600." Try £6,000.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
As you know, I'm really good friends with John, who owns the gym that I train at in Plymouth, Zone Fitness. And John's invested a lot of money into some really top piece of kit. But when we talk about, because we often talk about, he tells me which kit maybe, he'll say, "Oh, have you seen many people on that kit?" And whatever. He's just brought out, actually, he had a True Squat from Watson's in both his Truro gym and his Plymouth gym. And I loved it. It was brilliant. It was honestly great, but no one else used it. And yet, I know he sold them to other gyms that are crying out for him, and it's that sort of, and when I spoke to him about it, he's like, oh yeah, that's $3,000. And I'm like, hell, but yeah, I genuinely, people just don't, oh really, you've paid 4,000 for that? Well, yeah, you better use it now.
Yeah.
And I suppose as a gym owner though, Tom, your ultimate goal is to fill the gym with pieces of kit that people want to use, not just fill the gym with pieces of kit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we used to have a monolith which we didn't own, but it just took up space, and it was okay, about 4 or 5 people used it, and it was just normal gym users were like, what's that? I'm not going near that. Just absolute waste of space. And when I got rid of it, I had 1 or 2 people saying, oh, where's the monolith gone? Why didn't you buy it when when the powerlifters left and took their kit with them? I was like, well, because no one used it. Oh, I used it. You're one person who used it out of 600 members. That's whatever percent that is, less than 1% of the membership. And it takes up such a massive space. So I put a Nautilus power rack in there, used every day. Like they're so busy that sometimes you can't get on it. And I got 2 of those.
It's the I know you know this, the gym I train at, obviously Zone, he's filled it with really good kit like Prime, Panata, Hammer Strength. Although I'm not a great lover of the Hammer Strength chest pressers of any kind.
No, they're rubbish.
There's no space to get yourself in. Now, I don't have the problem I used to have, which is I couldn't fit in. Now I can fit in. My shoulders can't go that far back. And but he's constantly, which I'm sure you are, constantly looking at what pieces are being used and what pieces people have gone off, and and things like that, so they can get in. So so the basically the short answer to that question is yes, you would do it again with a few.
I would do it again with some adjustments, such as, no, I won't say it because that's getting into nasty stuff. But I wouldn't do certain things again, that's for certain. And I wouldn't do them again if I opened another gym.
So you would go into it with your eyes wide open.
Yeah, but then you can't do that with any business because you never know what's going to happen.
That's fair enough. You said you had a couple of questions?
No, I just had the one. You had the ones that you've got made up, but you sent yourself on WhatsApp.
I can't find them. I'll still look through the podcast and see if I can grab them. But I did get a couple. So the ones that were on about prescription meds, I can't talk about, but I've sent that stuff, so that's fine. Well,
no, before we get to the main topic, because you wanted to have a little chat about NABA.
Right. I wanted a
rant about NABA.
I wanted a rant. So for whoever's listening to this, I know a lot of people do.
Not that many people, mate.
Well, more than you think. But from the 1st of January this year, NABA has discontinued Class 4, the men's Class 4.
Which is our class.
Which is our class. Now, they've done that under the radar, all right? And they've used the reason of it's not popular, which is a pile of bollocks, all right? The Class 2, when I judged for NABA, Class 2 went through that period of not really, there was like 4 or 5 people at the finals, so that's not a reason. They've basically done it because they've now added a teen category and a couple of bikini sort of ranges, ages, and stuff like that. So they've got rid of Class 4, and I'll be honest, that pisses me off, mainly because I was a NABA guy and Class 4 was my class, and it produced some phenomenal physiques.
Me,
you, Tommy Staunton, Ricky Moore, me, and obviously that was really sort of the end goal for me and you when we did prep.
Yeah.
So it just astounds me that NABA, I don't like NABA now. And I think
Really?
and I think everybody who knows me knows that. And I've got my own reasons for that. But I just find this a really dirty, underhanded move by NABA, by the NABA Council.
Sorry, Paul. I think the NABA Illuminati cut us off then for a second. So I think you were mid rant about the NABA Council, and then it cut off.
Believe me, there's no one young enough on the NABA Council to be able to use any technology that would appreciate that.
We're not getting into personal insults. We're just talking generally.
Yeah, generally, obviously.
Okay.
The thing is, and this has always annoyed me, the NABA Council is built up of the reps around the country and the president and stuff like that. Now, I'm not naming names because there's some good guys, but in general, NABA's problem and the reason why they are nowhere near the popular, if you name the top 3 popular amateur federations, NABA wouldn't be in there by a long shot. And that's not just me saying that, that's a fact, and one of the main reasons for that is they totally ignored social media for at least a decade. I was put forward as the social media guy back in 2010, and they actually said no because they didn't need it, But my problem with the NABA Council, most of all, is the fact that it's full of men. There's no women in there, and yet they're making decisions about female classes, and it's you can't get in there unless you're a rep, and the only way you get to be a rep is if the existing one retires or dies. So it's true though, but I've got a little story that when Mike Sullivan came up with the idea of the athletic class. So that would take the female classes from 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Opposed to the men's classes, which at the time I think they had 7 or 8. And yeah, I think it was 4 juniors.
Oh right, yeah. So I was talking about like class 4, class 5.
So male classes. The females had 2. So the males had 8, the females had 2. So I wrote the criteria for that. Mike Sullivan pushed it forward and got it allowed and things like that. And I remember a phone call that I had with Jim Robinson, who was the then president of NABA in the UK. And he actually said to me that if we were going to bring the athletic class, he wanted to get rid of trained. And I said, you can't do that. And he's like, but the shows are going to be longer. It's going to be more expensive. I said, you can't introduce a class, then take a female class away when you've got 8 male classes. And their total thinking behind that was financial and how long the show goes on, because if it goes on past a certain time, they get penalized by the place that they're having at, Oh, really? And that's a fact. That's not me. That phone call actually happened. And that's the mindset of them. And the reason why I'm saying this is that's generally the mindset that's now got rid of class 4. I don't understand. So I'm thinking, because I don't know, because they've been so underhanded about it, they've not actually put out any really firm rules sort of thing. I'm thinking that class 4 now climbs into bed with class 3. And
that'll put people at a huge disadvantage if they're shorter, though, wouldn't it?
Massive. There will always be class 4 guys that would have done well in class 3 no matter, because like in all classes you get exemplary people, Tommy Staunton, even if I say it myself,
how hard that is for you to say.
I know. But there are plenty of examples I could give, all right, but on the amount of class 4 competitors there has been and there is, that's a real drop in the ocean. It's so you're going to get a guy that's 5'5", all right, considering that class 4 is up to 165 centimeters, which is 5'5.5". Yeah, that 5'5.5", and they're going to be 11, 12 stone in a class where the majority of the guys are going to be about 5'8", you know, 5'8", 5'9", round about that type, and they're going to be 15, 16 stone.
Yeah.
You know, do you see what I mean? I'm just like, I don't understand it now. I'm sure NABA will come back and say, yeah, but there are federations that just have 3 classes, but they've always had 3 classes. And when you look at the measurements, the cut-offs, it's not like NABA's, unless they've changed it and not told anybody.
I don't know.
So class 3.
I'm so not into into bodybuilding competitions anymore that I don't know what the criteria are for any of them.
And to be honest, Tom, nor am I really. I'll go to client ones. I like to go to FitX competitions because I think FitX are brilliant, the people who run it and stuff like that. I am biased because they're my friends. And I know a lot of people at the PCA. But in general, I won't go to a show. Obviously, my anger about this is, you know, you did 2 class 4 shows. You know, I competed from 93 to 2015 using class 4. You know, it's mind-boggling that, you know, I did it for that long. Sorry, 2003, not 93. But yeah, so that was my little rant about that. We'll move on to our
let's move on, because it's been like 40 minutes of you ranting about NABA.
It's not been 40 minutes.
It feels like it.
Oh, shush. So
we were going to talk about training with purpose, essentially. So it's and the problem here is people going into the gym, they want to, let's say, be a bodybuilder, build more muscle, lose body fat, yet they are training to lift as much weight as possible, or they want to be strong and they're trying to do CrossFit stuff, or as in, you know, they want to be a strength athlete, CrossFit stuff. I mean, obviously me and Paul are bodybuilding based, so that's what we're going to talk about here. So we're talking about people who want to be bodybuilding, who want to build more muscle as a priority, but the things that they are doing which are potentially hampering that or not optimizing that. Is that a good summary?
It's we've talked about, and other podcasts have talked about, what's the best workout, you should be doing this and doing that and whatever, which is fine. Opinions are opinions. But what me and Tom are talking about now is really, if you've got a coach, that should be a conversation that you and your coach have without a shadow of a doubt. What's your goals? And then the coach should basically fit that training around what your goals are, not just here's every other day or push-pull legs, you know, crack on. But if you haven't got a coach, and do you think about this? You know, I know, like Tom's just said, he discusses it on with his clients and in his content and things like that. I definitely discuss it with my clients, and my clients now are more heavily sort of lifestyle clients, as in they want to train, they want to build muscle, but they're never going to compete, things like that. 90% of my clients are that now, and 10% are competitive ones. So I have that conversation like Tom does with my clients, i.e., what's your goal? So if someone's goal is to get as strong as possible, you know, their training should be very different if they want to just build and they don't really care about strength. Because I think a lot of people, and you've probably seen this as well, Tom, a lot of people think you've got to be one to get the other. Whereas if you are big, yes, you are strong, but it's a byproduct of building muscle. You know, just as if you're training for strength, a byproduct of that is muscle building. So essentially is, do you plan your training around your end goal, and how you should do that?
And the thing is that people might have the same sort of goal, but they but their life constraints are different. So, for example, I've got a client who just started working with now, who is looking to that's his thing, build as much muscle as possible. He wants to lose some body fat. He's gym trained for many years, but he's limited by certain exercises. So he can't do certain exercises which would say hurt his back or hit his legs or whatever else, hurt his knees. So we've had to change the exercises around that. Now, the problem is that there's people who are saying you can't build big legs without doing squats. You must do bench press to build a big chest, et cetera, et cetera. And people who don't have coaches are potentially worrying to say, well, okay, well, I want to build my legs, but I've only got, it's like a leg press in my gym, and I can't squat because I've got a disc injury or something like that. So can I not build muscle? And obviously the answer is yes, you can. You just got to be a little bit more creative about it.
Yeah, I think one of the problems there though is coaches that are on social media.
I'm on social media. I'm a coach,
but we don't really talk about. I put up content about certain tips and tricks you can do with training. You do the same. You'll put an example routine up, but me, you, and several loads of other coaches that we know don't go, you can't build legs without squatting. I built a very decent pair of legs without squatting. So it's misinformation to get people, and I suppose it's down that route of, yeah, but old school, everybody squatted, everybody benched, everybody bent over row, and whatever. I've not been able to properly bend over row since 96 because of a back injury, but my back was, decent. Like you said, it's just about being creative. But it's I had a couple of conversations this last week. One, my next door neighbour's into training. He's quite young. He's about 23, and he trains at the gym, whatever. Yeah. And he sort of knows what he's doing, but he's a little bit sloppy. He's training back, but he's not training back, And he came along and trained with me and my son on Wednesday. And as we went through it, he managed to lift more weight, but with better form. And what I tended to show him and explain to him was, lift as heavy as you can, given the reps that you're actually using. So by the end of it, he understood that it wasn't about necessarily lifting heavy or lifting light. It was about the reps needed for what he wanted to achieve. Now, like I said, he's new. He wants to be massive, strong, ripped, the lot. But I managed to get out of him. His first and ultimate goal is to get bigger. So he wanted more muscle. So
go on.
No, I was just going to say, because he then said to me, I have to train in the rep range of 8 to 12, don't I? And I was like, no, you don't. That is a common sort of answer for people. The best rep range for muscle growth is between 8 and 12. Between 2 and 6 for strength, and endurance is above 12, sort of thing, when that's not actually true. And this is what I mean by this discussion we're having now. It's about realizing that it's not just one path that you hear on social media, or you've been told by the big bloke in the gym or whatever. And the only way you're going to find out what works for you is by trying. Evidence has come out that arms are actually grow better on a higher rep range, so you get more of a pump in there, than on a lower, heavier rep range. And I'm sure, and that's got nothing to do with fast or slow twitch muscle fibers and whatever. I was on Instagram the other day, and I saw a guy, a well-known competitor, who's now promoting himself as a coach, and he put a reasoning for doing things in a certain way with your glutes because of fast and slow twitch muscle fibers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm just like,
Paul, just out of reference, do you have like a fast ass or a slow ass?
well, he claimed that most of the fibers in your ass are slow twitch.
But don't avoid the question.
Well, I used to have a fast ass, but then I left the Navy. So so now it's quite slow. But it's that sort of thing though, and that can be very confusing because when you hear that, you're like, right, okay, yeah, no, that's the reason I'm doing that. And I can guarantee you, a very small percentage of people consider fast and slow twitch fibers when they're training.
And do you know what's so silly about that is that while there is, okay, so if you bodybuilders, as in successful competitive bodybuilders, generally do have more, I should say more, but they have a higher percentage of fast. Do you know what? I've been so long since I've talked about fast and slow because it really doesn't make a difference in terms of the general population. But I think there's type 1, so there's type 2 and there's type 2X, isn't there, or something like that? Two types. Yeah. And so they have a high percentage of the more growth type 2. God, I'm so rusty on this.
But that's they're more genetically.
And there's other things in place that they grow muscle faster, they have better recovery, all that sort of stuff. But you won't know unless you go and have some sort of detailed exam what type of fibers you've got in your muscle. So it's completely irrelevant to when you're talking about coaching normal everyday people. That might be something that you go into detail with if you're at the very 1% top end of the competitive, where the big bucks are. Well, not that big bucks, but big money. It matters to know that, so you can adjust your training. For absolutely everybody else, don't be worrying about if your fibers are slow or fast. That's just, and you won't even know from the type of training you do if you respond, like if you've got fast or slow switch fibers, because it will be, some people respond better to like standing calf raises than seated calf raises, for example. And it's just all these, and oh God, I'm going to go rant now. But all these people who are saying that, oh, you've got to consider this, and you've got to consider your blood type when you're dieting. You've got to consider all these little nuances. It's like, no, most people don't need that. Most people just need to be taught good exercises with good range, with a good range of volume, and make sure they're doing it consistently and eating the right foods. That's what matters, not your bloody slow twitch or fast twitch fiber percentage.
Well, this is it. And like you said, you could have two guys, and some coach, like this coach, for example. I'm not going to say his name.
No, don't be naughty.
I'm not going to say his name, but he's coming out with a load of tripe on a weekly basis.
I can guarantee if he's doing it, there's 30 or 40 others who are doing exactly the same thing, because they're all following each other. Yeah,
without a doubt. And I'm just like, so you're saying Sarah, who is 101 pounds, has the same twitch fibers as Janet, who's 158 pounds and ripped to shreds.
That's the thing, is that people are talking about these things and not even understanding what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And not, your fast twitch muscle fiber makeup makes a difference to your diet. Oh, really? Does it? Yeah. Okay. How are you going to measure that? I'm not. I'm just going to tell you that it is. But why does it matter? No one questions these things. Like
it's like planning a diet on hormones without doing a test.
Yeah. Or well, there's loads of examples we could use, isn't it? But it's like talking about stuff which you just can't measure. You can't measure certain things without sophisticated medical equipment. And most coaches don't have that. And most people can't afford to take those tests. So you've got to work on indicators rather than your muscle fiber types are off. That's why you're not growing your glutes. Or you're just not doing the right exercises, or someone's just telling you to do kickbacks on the step mill. and that's not growing your glutes. Oh, the reason? Oh, because you've got less fast twitch fibers in your glutes. Not that it's a shit exercise.
Yeah, and so, and for once we haven't actually gone off topic. It's
for once.
for once, because the purpose of this discussion is, do you plan? And do you schedule your training, plan your training around your end goal? Now, all this matters because you will go, right, I need to be really super detailed because I want to be there. I guarantee you, as detailed as you go into your training, that detail won't go into your diet. It won't go into your sleep. It won't go into your rest and recovery. It's only when it goes into every aspect of building muscle, and even then it's a guess, but it's off air. We were speaking about an example of this because I'm going to be coaching a PT in my gym, George. He's a really nice guy. He's very, very keen. It's going to be his first show. He's going to do the PCA first timers, but he's super, super keen. And what I've said to him is he's training like 5 days a week. He was training 6. He's training 5 days a week. I've actually said to him, here's a workout that I want you to do before you actually come and work with me, because it's basics. There's no exercise in there that you need to use one arm for that involves a pulley. All right. And it's basic exercises with good form, a good rep range, with consistency in it, and it's only 4 days. And when he asked me questions, why? I said, because for these 16 weeks that you're running without me before we start working together, your goal is to get as strong as possible. Yeah, you will gain weight, obviously, but as strong as possible, eating as many calories as you possibly can without obviously laying down a load of fat, because then when you achieve that and you go straight into a prep cycle with a coach, you've basically given the coach a Christmas present. I only train 3 or 4 days a week. Right. Okay. So we can use additional days to increase the output instead of decreasing calories. I only do 20 minutes of cardio twice a week. Again, another way to increase the output so we don't reduce the calories. And when we do need to reduce the calories, I'm on 6,000 calories a day. Brilliant. I've had guys come to me on 2,500 calories at 20 weeks out. I'm like, that. What am I going to do with that? You're going to literally be eating your shoelaces. So
red shoelaces, like the sugar ones.
Yeah. So so that plan there is to get him to his end goal of the off season, which we've set. And then the plan from there is to step on stage, obviously, as shredded and as big as possible. He asked about strength. I don't care how strong people I coach to get on stage are. It's irrelevant. So the goal there would be setting up his training so he holds onto his muscles, he recovers well, and he gets shredded. But how many people have said to you, Tom, when they're dieting or when you've been dieting, oh, have you lost your strength? Oh, I'm really weak. I'm like, I don't care, mate. As long as you're pushing it and you're sustaining that muscle mass, it doesn't matter. And that's planning ahead, planning your training to fit the end goal, not to fit what the type of workout is currently being bantered around. And another, just while I'm on that, the thing we said about slow and fast muscle twitch fibers applies the same to a term which is reps in reserve.
We're going on that one again.
Yeah, because it came up again to me the other day, and like we said last time, you can't do it unless you take every weight that you're ever using to failure, because then you don't know what's in reserve. And I said this to this guy, and he's like, and you could see in his head he was sort of like, no, I'm going to say it. And then in the end he went, yeah, I suppose you're right, really. I was like, but it's a buzzword, it's an in word, it's you know.
The reps in reserve thing, that really, it's one of those little things that again, it's something that most people don't need to think about. You know, it's like reps in reserve is, let's say you push in a decently heavy weight. Yeah. Now, I will train it, and I've got to be especially careful now because of my heart and a few other things about how hard I push in the gym. And that's not a pussy get out clause because I still train really hard.
Yeah,
but say, for example, I'm doing bench press. I'll put and I had a slight chest injury during lockdown when I was training in my gym by myself. No one else came with me. And so I just thought I'm going to back off on the weight a little bit because it was potentially an injury thing. So I've been pushing more volume on weights on chest. But if I was to say put on like 100, 110 kilos, and I can get about 5 reps, and that's I'm pretty much nearly failing on 5. Now I know I could get another 2 really if I really pushed it out, but the risk to benefit ratio of doing that at my level now is negligible. You know, I'll get no benefit from pushing potentially close to an injury, or trying to maximize my muscle tissue because I'm not looking to get on stage or anything like that. And that's where reps in reserve is like, I've got 2 in there maybe, but safety wise, I'm going to stop here because I've stimulated the muscle. I'm nearly at failure. So I've pushed that domino over. I don't need to go those extra 2. The risk to reward benefit is less. It's not worth it, cost benefit analysis. What people are interpreting that is, oh, I'll do 10 reps on a lightweight and I've got 5 left or whatever. And so I'll stop now before I've made an effort. I'm like, that's not what reps in reserve is. No, reps in reserve is the risk benefit analysis.
And the thing is, it applies the same as what we've just said about other things. It's most general guys and competitive guys and women don't need to do that. It's an overcomplication for no real reason, unless you are, as you said, at that upper echelon where you need to get that 1% to make a difference between third and first.
But even then, I would make the argument. We've both been competitive athletes. We've both been, top of our game in the amateur ranks, that sort of thing. For us, actually, reps in reserve is more of a consideration because, obviously, I wish I'd known this before I'd put my shoulder out and all that other stuff and, discs out. But if you're going for that extra I've got to push myself to the extra 1% because that's where champions go. If you look at the long list of people who have done that, such as like Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, all that sort of stuff, they've all ended up with really bad injuries afterwards. I've had a bad injury because of pushing the weight. If I'd have just said, well, do you know what? I've got 3 reps on that 4-plate bench. That's enough for me. I've stimulated muscle, rather than going, yeah, I'm going to do 5 reps. Yeah, but did the 5 reps fine, got off, and then had a discount the next day.
But I felt it back when I was competing, and I feel the same way now. In the grand scheme of things, I wasn't hugely strong apart from my legs. I incline press 60 kg dumbbells for reps, but if you took how muscular I was in relation to my height and how strong other body parts were, like my legs and stuff, that was, that was a given sort of thing. It's like on a flat bench, I think I only pushed 3 plates either side, maybe a handful of times. I just was crap at that. But, I leg pressed 32 plates in 2008. Don't get me wrong, I did it once or twice. That was it. And my legs was super strong. Even now, I train legs on Tuesday, and I did 20 plates on the leg press, and I felt great about it. But apart from that, I don't go anywhere near the need for reps in reserve. But I think too many people get mixed up with the hyper detail, and then they don't actually, they're thinking too much about reps in reserve, fast and slow twitch muscle fibers, tension, bring that there, and and stuff like that they don't actually train.
You know what this is? this is the eating the cherry before you've eaten the cake.
Yeah.
You know, it's the oh, what about all these things I've got to think about, and about all these things at the top which are like shiny object things. I've got to put occlusion bands on because that's going to really help me. You know, all these things. Oh, where's my waist trainer? Oh, I've got to have my ice bath, you know, straight after training. You know, all these things that they have to do. And they're not even doing the basics of lifting compound exercises. They're not even doing the basics of make sure you get your compounds in, lift decent weight before you get onto the one arm pull downs super slow. You know, all these silly things that people are like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And no one's like, well, no one. People don't like, you know, focus on the really heavy compounds, you know, smashing that, you know, really, really pushing themselves to sort of failure, drop setting when they get to a sticking point, you know, supersetting big compounds together. Those are all the things. And I don't want to talk like a granddad talk about the good old days or anything else. But if you look at really, really good physiques, really muscular, strong physiques, they're all built around the same basics.
Yeah, even it's not even about the good old days. You know, I know pros now. Look at James Hollingshead. You know, he trains basics, you know, JP does. I know JP doesn't compete, but, you know, people, it was funny, our last guest, actually, Matt Tofton, like he said on our podcast, once he'd worked with JP, people went to him to be coached because they thought he would use JP's methods, you know, and, you know, I've known Jordan for a very long time. And he's one of a few people that I would be like, no, can't train with him. He's just too, and it's not because he lifts weight, it's just intensity. And half the stuff he does, people are like, oh yeah, I want to do, how do you do that? Oh, show me how to, you just haven't got the mindset to do it. You know, Lewis Breed down here, who's a pro, he's in Dubai at the moment. He's got one of the best work ethics in a gym I've ever seen. You know, and I guarantee you, he doesn't think about fast twitch or slow twitch fibers. He doesn't talk about reps in reserve, and he doesn't own a fucking occlusion band at all.
Or a waist trainer.
Yeah, or a waist trainer. But you know, and I could single out loads of top shelf guys, but I can also talk about other guys that have had great physiques or have great physiques now, as well as when I started training and when you started training and stuff like that, that keep to the basics, keep to basically consistency and get the job done, you know.
But you know, my training now is, I still train in a similar way to when I was competing, although obviously I don't lift as heavy, I don't do as much volume. There's certain limitations to what I can do because of injuries I've got and stuff like that. But I still train with the same sort of mindset. You know, I'm still training to near or actual failure. I'm still doing volume work. You know, I don't do anything below 5 reps because what's the point? I'm not looking to get much stronger, and I'm never going to be as strong as I used to be. So what I'm just looking to maintain muscle and maintain strength as I get into my twilight years where you are. And it's just, you know, there's nothing fancy about what I do. It's just effective because it's consistency over and over and over again. And I think people are looking for this magic bullet about, oh, you know, what's going to get me there in 2 weeks' time? Well, nothing really. You've got to work hard at it, and you've got to make sure you're doing it consistently. Same as a diet.
But it's like I see it in my gym. I see it in gyms that I've been to. I've seen it in yours. You'll get guys that are like doing 3 reps and they're not strength athletes. And I'm like,
they're trying to be bodybuilders, but also the strongest guy in the gym. And they're going to be the most injured guy in the gym.
Yeah. The risk, like you said, the risk and reward from being able to say you've just done 4 plates. I'm like, it's not going to benefit you at all. But I guess, I guess really the point of all this is don't listen to anybody on Instagram and social media about how they train now. And I've always said this about Dorian. When he was at his peak, everybody started doing and training like Dorian at his peak. I'm like, no. Find out what he was doing when he was Joe Average, when he was a bodybuilder that competed at a local qualifier. find out how he was training there and how he was eating and replicate that. Don't replicate what he's doing at the Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
You know, replicate how he got there, not what he's doing when he's there. And that's why I would never copy a pro's workout, you know, and think that's going to get me where they are.
You know, this is quite a crucial thing, because I'm doing this at the moment. I'm doing my sort of business coaching side of things as well. And one of the things I've tried and impress my clients on that, as well as the clients I work with on physique coaching, is that if you're just starting out, arguably the worst coach you can have is a pro bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Because, and okay, I want to caveat this with, if a pro bodybuilder has all the training and also the knowledge of working with beginners, etc., fine, right? But a guy who is coaching other bodybuilders to be into pro level bodybuilding is not going to be the best coach for someone who is just starting out, because that person doesn't need that level. You know, yeah, okay, you could probably write my basic plan or whatever, but you want to be coached by someone who can take you to the next level, And it's the same when I work with the business coaching guys, is that, oh, what does, you know, so-and-so big guru in the industry do? But that doesn't matter what they're doing. They've got, you know, massive monthly revenue turnover. They've got a team of 10 people. They've got VAs in the Philippines, all that sort of stuff. And you're just you. So you don't need what they're doing. You need to know how to get to the next level. And that's what people don't get. Is like, oh, well, how can I get to the next level and move up? The most successful guys, they're the ones who do that. And it's what Matt was talking about on his thing. What can I get to progress? Just this, you know, to the next level, to gain another pound of muscle. Okay, I've got that. What about the next pound? What about the next pound?
That goes along with what we've just said there about goals. I think because one of the questions I ask when I get a new client, I'm sure you do as well, is I ask them what their goal is, you know, and then my next question is, how long do you have to get that goal? Now, they'll put that down, and when I speak to them on the phone, I'll look at that and go, right, okay, you've put this down in this time period. Right, give me a goal that's actually achievable in that time frame. And they're like, well, can we not be shredded and super muscular? No, because someone who works 50 hours a week with 3 kids at home, a wife, you know, all those responsibilities, is not going to be able to put that time into doing that. So it's about looking not only what you want to be, but also looking at if you can do it with your social and your family and personal and business life as it is. And I found that since I started asking that and actually talking to the client about that, I found that they're going, well, actually, yeah, I'd like to look like so-and-so and whatever in 6 weeks. But I suppose I just want to drop 4 kilos. I want to drop 4 kilos, and I want to feel, I just want to feel less out of breath. I want to feel healthy. Right. Okay. Short goal, 4 weeks time, this, you know, and I've just found that that's much more achievable. And I don't think many bodybuilders do that. I think it's like, and I've seen this a lot over the last like 5-10 years. What's your goal? Oh, I want to compete at the British next year. You've never done a show. Right, okay.
There's a technique I use for my clients, both business and physique, and it's called the wish list. And the wish list is broken down because I like my acronyms. It's like this. So you got what you want. This is your long-term goals, right? So what, you know, if I could wave a magic wand, that happens, what would that be? So that's your wants, yeah? Next, what's immediately in your way right now, right? So what's the 3 things that are stopping you progressing in that goal, okay? The next one is the systems. So what can we put in place to change those 3 things, to get them out of the way, right? And then what's the honors, as in the payoff? So what you're gonna get from removing those 3 things, right? That takes you around the circle, and then it's like, right, we still want that goal. What's the next 3 things? And you go round and round and round and round until you're at that point where you've removed all the barriers, and now you're at that goal. But that goal might change along the way. And that's the way people need to think about it. It's not where you want to be in 2-3 years time, although that's a good long-term goal to have, but it's too long to think about it in 8 weeks or 12 weeks. So what in the next 12 weeks is stopping you or 8 weeks is stopping you moving forward? They're the things to remove. And for most people, when you say, if you look for physique coaching, what's the thing in your way? Mostly when I'm talking about bodybuilders for shows here, we're talking about normal people. What's the main thing? Lifestyle gets in the way. They can't stick to the habits. They haven't got a training plan because they've got no systems. They just go in the gym and pot around. And then thirdly, they don't know what to eat, or they do know what to eat and they can't eat it because their routine's all over the place.
Yeah.
Those are 3 things. And once you take those out of the equation, it's then, right, how can we increase your protein now? How can we refine your training? How can we develop more habits? That's the thing. And that's the way to get it. But people don't think about it that way. They think, oh, what can I put in my place now to gain, X amount of muscle in 6 weeks?
And the problem with that, when they start asking that question, the answer is normally, I'm going to cut my carbs, or I'm going to cut my calories right down. I'm going to train 7 days a week.
Only fasted cardio.
Yeah, and yeah, and then they can't keep that up, and it's a vicious circle. You speak about acronyms. I've got one. We haven't got time to go through it, but it's basically calorie. So,
that's mine, you prick.
Yeah, but what's yours is mine. So
that's in my book. So that's copyrighted.
It's on my website, so it doesn't matter. And but it is that I've got a group on Facebook called Nutrition.
Is it my group? Is it?
Yeah.
It's
called Build.
Yeah.
And if you, I've got a website called a page group called Nutrition Mindset and Nutrition Habits and Mindset. Yeah. And the whole purpose of that group is to show that it's not all about protein and calories and training and cardio and supplements and this and that. It's about the achievable things, the changing of a mindset that when you want to achieve fat loss, you don't have to eat 1,000 calories. When you, and this is another thing that I've seen this guy that we spoke about earlier with the fast twitch thing say and repeat, is that if you want to lose weight and change your body composition, then you have to cut carbs, because carbs release insulin and the body can't burn fat when insulin is being released. And
there's some real science there.
And I genuinely listened to it and I was just like, wow. I wonder if he knows there's a difference between body fat and fat,
Yeah, because most people get that wrong as well. And that's do you know what? I understand why people get that wrong, because it's a complex thing to think about. People think, because the other things people don't think about is they think that some carbohydrates and fat go into some sort of furnace in the body, and that's what causes calories to be burnt. And it's not. It's carbohydrates and fats being turned to ATP for muscle contraction and other energy. That's what causes.
And it's also, when I tell people how extremely hard and virtually impossible it is to store carbohydrates as body fat, they're like, no, you just, but it releases insulin, so it just gets stored. I'm like, I'm telling you now, for your body to be able to store carbohydrates, it's like minuscule percent. It's so hard for it to do it, and it just goes beyond. It just goes against everything that they've been fed over the years and are still being fed. Now, hopefully that's made sense in our prep radio normal style. We have kept it on topic longer than we normally do, but I'm hoping that people will be able to. My goal with that is for people to look at their training and look at where they want to go, and then change that if they need to. But as always, drop us a message. Tom's Instagram is
Tom Blackman _nutrition,
and mine is Team P Scarb. If you've got any questions about what we've just talked about, send them over. We'll answer them on the next podcast, which will
Send
be
him to Paul's Instagram. He's less busy than me.
which we will answer on the next podcast, which will be June the 7th.
Yeah, that's about right.
Well, if we say June the 7th and get one in before, then we're winning, aren't we? So
do you want to hear the Chewbacca story quickly?
Yes, before we go, yes.
All right, okay, so the Chewbacca story is that when I was working on the doors years and years ago, it was a door in Bath, and we'd always stood on the door.
Bath?
No, in Bath, the city in Bath.
Oh, right.
And we'd be stood on the door, and this guy would always come down every single week, and he and I'm not laughing at anyone's disability, but he had some sort of disability where he couldn't talk, and he'd go ah all the time. So he would come along, really nice guy, shake everyone's hands, and then go off and do all.
You're gonna get crucified for this, you know that, don't you?
Yeah. So and anyway, so every week he was coming through, and one day one of the other doormen was late coming in, so we all stood on the door. He comes down, and as he walks past the sort of the alleyway by the pub, he saw the Chewbacca guy in the alleyway with his hands in his pants having a good old rummage, and then he'd come out and then and they'll go to shake everyone's hands. So for about a year, this guy had been rummaging his pants, coming round and then running off like, you know, all that time.
I just
want to refused to shave his hands, but
I just want to put it out there that I respect anybody with any disabilities, and I wouldn't call anybody the Chewbacca guy.
That's the only way I can explain it.
Tom is slightly retarded himself, so you know, just blame Tom. All messages.
Retarded is actually an insult. You can't do that.
All messages of hate goes to Ministry of Fitness.
No, yeah. The fact is, I don't think he was retarded. He just had a speech impediment.
I know. I actually know what you mean, because I've met a few guys like that.
He knew what he was doing, and he was just laughing to himself for years after doing it. But that's the Chewbacca story, anyway.
And in simpler times, mate, where you don't have to worry about certain bollocks. But that's it. That's all we've got time for today. We are gonna. There's no point saying we're gonna get.
Don't say we're gonna do another one, because that jinxes it. We'll probably do one sometime before we die.
Yeah.
Which is saying something, since me and Paul have been close to death numerous times, I think now.
Yeah. So and everybody will be happy to know I'm getting it so often now. I'm just bored of it, so I'm not going to mention it. You're just going to see a podcast with Tom at the top, just talking, and I'm just not here. There'll just be a hat in the camera.
Well, do you know what? With AI now, I'll be able to generate a version of you which is even grumpier, maybe, and that can talk to me.
That really is
in the podcast.
Calling the kettle, isn't it? So as usual, sponsors.
Oh yeah, let's do a quick one. Okay, let's do one for our sponsors. Okay.
Yep, and you can get in touch with Tom on the usual socials, which is
we've already done that. Tom Blackman _nutrition.
And mine's Team P-Scarb on pretty much anything. You can go on, type Team P-Scarb in, and you'll get me. And yeah, so that's all to be said. We'll leave everybody alone.
Thanks for watching, listening. If anybody actually did listen to the podcast or watch it, appreciate your support, and maybe a like and a recommendation to other people.
Yeah, send us a message. Tell us if you do like it or you think it's shit.
Yeah. Okay.
See you later, everybody.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.